Hello folks, welcome to Legacy Eyes Academy. In this video, we'll be discussing a current affair compilation. First, understand this course is designed only from your prelims perspective. So whatever topic that we will see, we will not be discussing like your mains or in your classes. It will be crisp, kept only for prelims, and it will be discussed like your questions. Understanding? This might be the possible questions coming, and sometimes what I've did is I've tried to inculcate your statement kind of option so that through that you get to know your answers. Alright? So in today's video, we will be discussing your June 2024 Polity Current Affair compilation. Understanding? Let's get into the video. In this video, we will be covering through the topics of coalition government, demand for new states, internal emergency, proportional representation, Mission Karmayogi, and we will also be discussing about your online misinformation, World Summit on the Information Society. We will also be going through your new criminal laws which has come into effect. We will be dealing with the Telecommunications Act of 2023, and at last we will be seeing about the Post Office Act of 2023. This is presented to you by your faculty Sushma KP. Alright, let's get into the video. The first topic, coalition government. In simpler words, what do you think a coalition government is? Let's say this is party A, party B. Let's take USA for example. There's only two ones. One is your Republicans, one is your Democrats. Understanding? Now we'll come back to India. Do we have only two parties? We have a number of parties. Yes. Why? Because we are a multi-party system. That is, a number of parties can exist. Let's say with respect to our Lok Sabha, 552 seats are there in this 545, but this year it was only contested for 543. Let's take 545, 543 range itself. So at least somewhere you have to cross the 270 mark. Either one party has to cross your 270 odd seats to get the majority and set up as a single party. Let's say this party has got, like present day in 2024 Lok Sabha elections, like how it happened. This, let's consider it as BJP. Let's consider an alliance, that is your NDA. This didn't get this mark. So what happened? It got somewhere less, around 240. Then it came to your 270 by aligning with its members. That is, it formed an alliance. Because it couldn't reach the majority, it formed an alliance with other party, and together now they've set up the party. This is called as coalition government. Understanding? Fine, coalition government as a concept is not very new to India. It's been there since very long time. Now in very long time, we can say from your 1970s onwards, it started 1980s, it was established. This coalition that they are going to have, these parties, will it be or is it mandatory that they have to have this coalition before the election itself, or is it also after the election? In the coalition government, especially with regard to India, both ways are possible. That is pre-election alliance as well as your post-election alliance or coalition is also observed. That is, they will tell, I will support you from outside. Understanding? So these types of things are there. Now say with respect to India's history of coalition government, in 1977, first coalition government started with your Janata Party, which is coming into the union level. Then 1989, the era of coalition politics started. First time in 1999 to 2004, the first coalition to complete 5-year term. Now we saw 1977 page itself it started, 1989 page started. Now, if you see the life of these coalition governments, it was very less. For example, we see the lifetime being 13 months to few days. That is one of the main issues with respect to coalition government, is it cannot continue for long. But for the first time, one coalition government completed the 5-year term, means that is your NDA, National Democratic Alliance, it completed a 5-year term. Then After your 2004, we see again completely coalition only. From 2013 onwards, yes, one single party majority was happening, but then again 2024, we have seen re-emergence of your coalition government. That is your present 2024 elections are depiction to your coalition politics. What is the significance, or now can we say coalition government means, is it a good thing or a bad thing? If we have to say this terminology is good, this terminology is bad, especially in the world politics, that doesn't work. There are a lot of merits to it. At the same point of time, there are a lot of demerits to it also. What do I mean by this? One thing with respect to your coalition government we can expect is a broader representation. That is, because people are coming from different walks, different parties, different ideologies, and also one more main thing is different voter backgrounds. That is, each one will be representing a particular set of people, which means when they all come together, then their backgrounds of the people also will be coming in together. And one more thing is, because it is a coalition government, you cannot take any hurried decisions. For everything, there will be a check and balance. So this is all built. That is, one topic is debated well. The same thing can be visualized in the role of Lok Sabha also. The debates that we can expect, because it is a coalition government, because it is not a one party domination, one ideology domination, we can expect vibrant debates which will cover a range of issues. Yes or no? So we can have an assurance that yes, they will be thinking from all perspective. Even if they don't want to, they will be put in that conditions. So this will, what will this promote? Cooperative federalism. And also, because multiple stakeholders are involved, the policies and programs that the government will bring up will also be more inclusive in nature. So these are some of the advantages of your coalition government, but there are also adequate number of challenges. First and foremost, with regard to your coalition party, if you see, we see policy paralysis. Yes, like I told in the previous one itself, multiple people, multiple units, multiple factions will come together with different ideologies. But it doesn't necessarily mean always it will be for a good thing. Let's take, for example, your 2008. Your 2008 your 2008 Indo-US nuclear deal, otherwise dubbed as your 123 agreement. Your leftist party, that point of time, it was a coalition government. Your leftist parties withdrew support because of their alignment to their ideology, and they didn't want to come. That is, they said, if you would go ahead with this, we will pull out the support. So, this is somewhere you say policy paralysis, yes or no? And also, see, with regard to it, creates a sense of regionalism. This is one of the things that we can visualize where it is affecting us. One example I'll give you: delay in Tista water agreement. Yes, it also leads to myopic decision making. It is very short term in nature. They are not looking for the long term. Okay, so these kind of things are affecting. It also affects the stability of the government. Any point of time, it can be threatened. Like in this case, if you do anything against me, then I will pull off. For example, we also have instances where we have had Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka issues. At that point of time, the southern states, more specifically Tamil Nadu, was against having a different kind of relationship with Sri Lanka. So a lot of these times, the one constant threatening factor is, if you do this, then I will pull out my support. If you do that, then I will pull out my support. So what happens is a paralysis of policy coupled with instability. This is very bad combination for democracy, because there is constant changes, there is very much constant changes. And also, because multiple ideologies are coming together, there have to be some sort of compromise. And each time these people start affecting this, let's say during a period of coalition government, constantly our Ministry of Human Resources, Yeah, so the members kept on changing, the ministries kept on changing, the ask for portfolios kept on changing. So there was no continuity in policies at all. So these are all the disadvantages that we see with regard to your coalition governments. Consider the following statements about coalition governments in India. First, I'll read out all the statements, then we will discuss the answer. A coalition government can be formed only when no single party has a majority in Lok Sabha. The President of India has the discretion to invite any party or coalition to form the government. The Prime Minister of a coalition government must necessarily be from the party with the largest number of seats in the Lok Sabha. See, look at this. The Prime Minister of a coalition government must be necessarily, which means he must be from the party with largest number. There is no such provision. Prime Minister can be anyone. Understanding? Now, when we say Prime Minister can be anyone, he can even be a member who has not even contested the elections. I so no, that provision is there in your Indian polity. Refer to that. Look at this. The President of India has the discretion to invite any party or coalition to form the government. The keyword here, discretion. Yes, this was the discretion which came out of the situations. It is not a constitutionally mandated or mentioned discretion, but it was more of a situational discretion. So this is a correct answer. A coalition government can be formed only when no single party has a majority in the Lok Sabha. Yes, if a single party had the majority, then what was the point of getting coalition, right? So first two statements are correct. So the answer is A, 1 and 2 only. Look at this. Which of the following is a characteristic of a coalition government in India? A coalition government can be formed only with the support of regional parties. A coalition government is necessarily a minority government. A coalition government can be formed with the support of parties with diverse ideologies. A coalition government can be formed only when there is a hung parliament. No, there is no such thing that only when there is a hung parliament a coalition government can be formed. A coalition government is necessarily a minority government. Why is it to be like that? Can be formed only with the support of regional parties? No, no such things. So the correct answer is C. A coalition government can be formed with the support of correct answer is a coalition government can be formed with the support of parties with diverse ideologies. Next question, look at this. Consider the following statements about the role of the President of India in the formation of coalition government. Alright. The President has the discretion to invite any party or coalition to form the government. Yes, the answer is correct. The President must invite the party or coalition with the majority of seats in the Lok Sabha to form the government. First, I'll read out the statements. The President's decision is subject to judicial review. Now, coming back, he has the discretion to invite any party to form the coalition of. It's correct. Look at this. Any party. And look at the second statement. Must invite party or coalition with the majority number of seats. Both of these are contradicting each other. So this is wrong. This is correct. The reason I put this statement is for you to understand that the President's decision is subject to judicial review. So the answer is A, 1 and 3 only. Now, what is the main advantage of a coalition government in a diverse country like India? It allows for stable government with clear majority. It enables regional parties to have a greater say in the national politics. It promotes national integration by bringing together parties with different ideologies. It reduces influence of regional parties in national politics. The answer is C. What is the significance of common minimum program in the context of coalition government? Just for this word, I have made this question for you. It is a document outlining the common goals and objectives of the coalition partners. It is the document outlining the differences in ideology among the coalition partners. It is a document outlining the role of Prime Minister in coalition government. It is a document outlining the role of President in the coalition government. Irrespective of if it is a coalition government or a single party government, the role of Prime Minister or role of President remains the same. Officially, the role remains the same. Internally, what the issues will be, that is outside the ambit. Now look at this. Look at the keyword itself. Common minimum program. Multiple parties with different ideologies are coming together. Then they have to have at least some minimum amount of things that they have to have in commonality. The answer is A. Common goals and objectives. Because that is what brings them together. The next topic that we will be seeing is demand for new states. This topic has again come into picture is because it has been 10 years since the formation of your Telangana to the bifurcation from Andhra Pradesh. If you see, Andhra Pradesh was the first state, first linguistic state to be formed post your death of Potti Sri Ramulu. Understanding? Your Telangana was again formed under your Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act of 2014. Now, if you see, asking or a demand or a grant for a separate state, separate region is not very new to India. Multiple states, that is from your independence itself, more specifically 1956 point of time when States Reorganization Act was passed. The people wanted the representation of the state to have some commonality feature. That was 1956. That doesn't mean that yes, now the issue has died out. Still today, for example, your bills are asking for Bill Pradesh to be created from parts of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra. We still have your issue of wanting Bodo land. Also, there is an issue of wanting your Vidarbha region from Maharashtra. Yes, and also there is a demand for Harit Pradesh from your Uttar Pradesh. Why are all these people asking for a separate state itself? One main thing is, and under the same reason was why Telangana was formed also was your regional development. That is more specific. Unequal regional development is one of the main reasons for people demanding for a separate state. Understanding these things, keep in mind, this will be very much useful in your prelims answering the question. So for a formation of new state in the parliament, Article 3 is the one that provides wherein provision for the formation of a new state, alteration of areas, boundaries or change of names, etc. First thing is, it will be introduced in the parliament. It will be introduced in either house of the parliament only on the recommendation of the president. Also, they will ask what is the view of the concerned state legislature. Understanding? The bill will be passed, and for this it is just an ordinary bill, meaning simple majority is enough. This is only for reorganization within the state. Now, by state, I mean within India. If at all it has to have exchange of territories, that is, exchange of territories of India to any other country, then that will not come under your ordinary bill. Rather, it will go into your constitutional amendment, which will require special majority. Understanding? This was very much shown by a Supreme Court in your Berubari Union case, wherein they held that changes, that is, changes to the Indian territory, if at all is going to happen, then that has to be through a constitutional amendment, and it cannot be considered like a normal reorganization like how we do in Article 3. Now, here is a list of commissions that we will be seeing with regard to your state reorganization within India. See, here is where the tag will come very much useful, wherein we say that it is destructible states of indestructible union. The states do not have permanency, but only the union, the territory is permanent. Understanding? Multiple committees have come in, SKDAR, JVP Commission, etc. They were all against your language as a basis for the state. Then comes your Fazil Ali Commission. One thing if you have to know about the Fazil Ali Commission was, yes, it said okay for state reorganization based on linguistic parameters, but it did not agree for one language, one state. It just specified about majority speakers. It didn't tell that this language means this state. So, that is one important thing you have to know about your Fazil Ali commissions. Four main things if you have to know: preservation and strengthening of unity and security of India, linguistic and cultural homogeneity. This is very, very important. Finance, economic, social considerations, planning, promotion of welfare, etc. Yeah. So this is with regard to your Fazil Ali Commission, which was the one which led to the State Reorganization Act of 1956. And now coming to your creation of states. See, when we say with regard to creation of states, multiple things you have to know is it is not entirely a bad thing or a good thing. Again, in polity, there is no one set of rule that yes, this is good, this is bad. First of all, with the creation of new states, if we say the positives, they will be able to use the resources efficiently. For example, let's take Telangana ka example itself. Compared to 2014 to 2024, they have increased their rice production using the water resources. But again, if you see the disadvantage, there is constant conflict between your Krishna water sharing between your Andhra Pradesh and your Telangana. And your states, smaller states, tend to perform good amount of trade. For example, when we consider your Goa, Himachal, considering them to your established states like your UP, Bihar, the trade was better, or the trade output was better in the smaller states compared to the bigger states. And also because they are of the smaller states, now when I say smaller states or bigger states, there is not respectively only with respect to the geography or the population. Now let's say your Sikkim, it started organic farming and it was very much efficient. It was able to bring changes. The same model is now being adopted by your Kerala also. Understanding? So when the regions or the units which they are telling, like in Telangana's example, that they are suffering from your unequal regional development, then this creation of states aids them. But at the same point of time, disadvantages are also there, wherein they will be fighting for your territorial boundaries, they will be fighting for water resources, understanding, and then creation of assets is again very much time consuming. For example, creation of new capital, Amravati, and then again from the scratch, they have to invest in your infrastructure. So these is again very much time consuming, resource consuming, money consuming. So this is also the challenges attributed to it. Okay. Now, let's look at some questions. Which of the following commissions recommended for reorganization of states on the basis of linguistic and cultural homogeneity? This is the exact line that I told you in which committee? Fazal Ali Commission. Okay. So, these are the keywords that you have to remember. This is very important. Next. What is the primary reason behind the demand for separate statehood in regions like Bodoland and Vidarbha regions of your Maharashtra? Linguistic and cultural differences, economic disparities, underdevelopment, administrative inefficiency, poor governance, security concerns, and border disputes. Answer is economic disparities and underdevelopment. So B is the answer. Many a times, yes, your linguistic reasons also sometimes have been starting to come up. Yeah, so different aspects are there, but majorly it is your development. The next topic that we will be discussing is your internal emergency. With internal emergency, two things you'll have to know about. What happened during the internal emergency was there was suspension of democratic rights or civil liberties of people. There was suspension of fundamental rights. Anything and everything that deals with emergency is there in your part 18. Now, when we speak about emergency, let's just take emergency. On the whole, India it was emergency was invoked in 1962, 1971, 1975. Now, when I tell 1961 was your Indo-China War. This is Indo-Pak War. This was imposed on the grounds of internal emergency. Now, when it comes to emergency, understand there are three types of emergency coming under Article 352, Article 356, Article 360. Article 352 speaks about your national emergency in the case of war or external aggression. 356 is failure of administrative machineries or otherwise called your President's Rule. Article 360 is your financial emergency. Article 352 invoked up until now for 3 times. Your 356 invoked a number of times. In fact, now in Manipur also. 360 has not been invoked up until now. That is your financial emergency. In your 42nd amendment, that is up until your 42nd amendment, the grounds to impose national emergency was either war, external aggression, or internal disturbances. In the 44th amendment, the internal disturbances was changed to armed rebellion. Understanding? Your internal emergency period of time, that is your 1975 periods of time, if you see, when the emergency was invoked, a lot of civil right violations took place, fundamental rights suspension took place. There's also cases about your forceful sterilizations. There was also a period where they went on to change the basic fabrics of the governance of your democracy. What do I mean by that? For example, the Lok Sabha term was increased to 6 years from 5 years. The impartiality or the independence of the judiciary was curbed, wherein judges who were not in consonance with the government at that point of time were either transferred or sidelined. They did not follow the seniority principle for your Chief Justice of India election. Multiple things like this took place. Your 44th amendment, whatever we see, is more of a corrective measure for your 42nd amendment. For example, let's take the term in your internal emergency period of time. The term of Lok Sabha was extended to 6 years from 5 years. Now, this was again corrected back to 5 years only, Lok Sabha term. Then the independence of judiciary was again tried to be restored, and the fundamental rights were curbed during your emergency invoked on your internal emergency ground. Now they said that despite any emergency be it, Your Article 20 and Article 21 cannot be suspended at any point of time. Okay, so these are all some of the things that came as a point of your emergency being invoked in India. The types of emergency we just discussed. So the proclamation of emergency. First and foremost, in the 44th Amendment, they also made a changes that if the president, if the president has to invoke an emergency, then he has to get a written consent from the cabinet, that is from the council of ministers. Prime minister alone will not orally tell the president invoke emergency, and he cannot invoke it. He needs the written consent, and by cabinet he means the COM and not the prime minister alone. To invoke this kind of emergency, now we're speaking about a national emergency. Yes, the president will be the one who will invoke it, but it has to be, that is, let's say if they want to continue the emergency, now more specifically we'll speak only about a national emergency. If they want to continue the emergency, then every 6 months the parliament has to pass it with special majority. Like this it can continue on indefinitely, but every 6 months they have to pass it with special majority. Now the revoking of the emergency can be done by the president. Otherwise, your Lok Sabha also can ask for the revocation of your emergency, and that they have to pass it only with your simple majority. Okay, look at this. Internal emergency, that is the period of time from 1975 to 77. What was happening is economic context. When we see just what happens if emergency is put through, one small example is in the period of 1970 to 1973, period of time, if you see, the price rise had increased so much that here the price rise has increased by 23%. Then the price rise went on to increase by 32%. Then it went on for 40%. The price rise increased very massively. Coupled with there were huge student protests happening. In your Gujarat and Bihar, there was constant conflict with judiciary. If you are not in consonance with the government, then either you are transferred or sidelined. Suspension of civil liberties, that is what we mentioned. Your restriction of movement, yes. Your human right violations were at the peak. At the same point of time, we see your forceful sterilizations, and also authoritatively trying to remove the slums. All of these were happened, and press council was abolished, which means the press had to be, most of the times if you would have seen this, still now you can see it in Google, where censored. Because of that, they used to publish blank pages in the newspaper as a form of protest because of heavy, severe pre-censorship that was seen. And your Lok Sabha term was extended to 6 years. There was crackdown on dissent, that is your opposition leaders. Anyone who is against the government, all arrested. Then there was also very limited scope for your judicial review. Majority of these changes were tried to be corrected in your 44th Amendment. Okay. Um, your Justice J.C. Shah committee was appointed to inquire into the wrongdoings or the atrocities that was carried out during the period of your internal emergency. Now let's look at some questions. Which article of the Indian Constitution empowers the president to proclaim a national emergency due to internal disturbances? This was earlier there, now they've removed internal disturbances. It is Article 352. Okay, now it is armed rebellion. Which constitutional amendment replaced the term internal disturbance with armed rebellion? That is your 44th Amendment Act, which was considered as a change or a remedy to your 42nd Amendment. What is the consequence if the Lok Sabha passes a resolution disapproving the continuation of the national emergency? Then the emergency is revoked, extended for another 6 months. President can override resolution. Emergency is suspended for 3 months. The emergency is immediately revoked. Next, the next topic that we will be seeing is your proportional representation. Why this has come into news? If you see, many experts and committees have suggested to consider proportional representation for your Lok Sabha. See, with regard to proportional representation, the concept is two things we follow. First, past the post system that we follow for all our Lok Sabha assembly elections, yes. Proportional representation, we try to follow it for our presidential election with single transferable vote. One of the things about your proportional representation is there is no vote wastage. There is, we can say that a good amount of consideration from the voter side is seen in your proportional representation. But one common thing that is differentiating between your proportional representation and first past the post system that we follow is the simplicity in the system. In proportional representation, you have to rank each candidate. For a very common voter, this might seem a little bit difficult rather than just picking one candidate. So one of the main key differences between your proportional representation and first past the post system is the simplicity. In proportional representation, look at the now just have a look at the tab. Okay, the countries which follow first past the post system is your USA, UK, Canada, India. The countries which follow proportional representation are your Israel, Netherlands. Yes. Now, coming to your proportional representation types, there is single transferable vote, list system, and mixed member proportional representation. India, in its presidential election, uses single transferable vote, wherein each person or each candidate is ranked according to their preferences. Then comes your list system, wherein it will be based on your vote share. Look at this. The votes are for the party and not for the individuals. Next is your mixed member proportional representation, wherein yes, one person is elected from your first past the post system, but also additional members are also elected. Now, let's look at few questions. Which of the following is a key feature of proportional representation system? Winner takes all approach, representation based on population proportion, first past the post, single member constituencies. Single member constituency is a key feature of first past the post system. Winner takes all is also an aspect of first past the post system. So all three of those are for one. The answer is a representation based on proportional population proportion. So B is the answer. Next, look at this question. What is the primary advantage of the proportional representation system? It promotes stability and single party governments. It ensures representation for minority groups and parties. It simplifies the electoral process. It increases voter turnout. The objective is not to do any of this, but it is the byproduct of it. Increases the voter turnout. These things and all cannot be bought in by a system. The answer is it ensures representation for minority groups and parties. No one system can change the voter turnout. It is the mentality, awareness, education. Which of the following is a criticism of proportional representation system? It can lead to coalition government and instability. It favors large parties over smaller ones. It is too complex and difficult to understand. It does not provide adequate representation for rural areas. Like we discussed, the most common thing is it is too complex and difficult to understand. The next topic is Mission Karmayogi. Now, we were talking on proportional representation, right? So, your law commission recommendations and all state that at least why don't you try out proportional representation as a test trial method? At least we can see whether the people are ready for it so that our votes won't be of wastage, and we can see if whether India is ready for a new set of changes. Okay, now coming back to Mission Karmayogi. See, your Mission Karmayogi is one thing. If at all you have to understand one simple word, one simple keyword, understand it, it has something to do with civil servants. Okay? Understand just that much at least. Under Mission Karmayogi, we have something called as Capacity Building Commission. It is a 3-member committee which is supported by the Internal Secretariat. The functions, if you see, of your Capacity Building Commission, It is for preparing annual state of civil services report, providing knowledge to the partners of the mission, providing knowledge partners to the mission. What exactly is this capacity building commission? See, a capacity building commission is a part of national program for civil services capacity building, wherein you have to develop a set or develop an environment to create a set of officers, that is civil servants. It includes all civil servants. On the basis of this, civil servants will not be rule based but be role based. They will not be operating based on supply, they will be operating on the base of demand. The civil servants come major attribute or the role, everything with respect to their job description all speaks about citizen centric administration. One of the common complaints that we receive with respect to bureaucracy is excessive red tapeism or very high bureaucratic control. They want to break that mold and rather create an environment for ease of doing business. Understanding? And also they want to create an entire platform where the role model of civil servants the role of civil servants should be viewed in a very positive concept, and it also should have two purpose. One, to the common public, they should have the trust, because their trust into the government institution, government bodies come from their trust from the civil servants, so there should be a trust building activity. And the second thing is deter other civil servants who are engaged in otherwise activities which is not conducive for the nation development, that this is not a good thing. So this is to serve both the purposes. So this is with regard to your capacity building or your Mission Karmayogi. Look at this: rule to role based training, competency driven approach, and they will be with attitude, skills and knowledge. Ask, they will be built on. And your Mission Karmayogi speaks about 70-20-10 pattern, wherein 70% of the knowledge is acquired by the civil servant in the job, 20% of the knowledge is acquired by working with others, and 10 is by your planning, capacity building and training. Now, if they bring in this Mission Karmayogi, one of the major aspects is all throughout the country, every single civil servant will have uniform, okay, uniform training. So this will reduce the training cost and it will bring in a uniform training approach. But if you see, in realistic manner, this is too big of a process. Understanding, which means to bring them all under one umbrella organization is challenging task. But this is a good task on that front. Let's look at some questions. Which of the following is the primary objective of Mission Karmayogi, a national program for civil services capacity building? To promote transparency and accountability in the government, to build a future ready civil service with the right attitude, skills and knowledge, to strengthen the institutional framework of the civil services to enhance the role of technology in governance. The answer is B. That is to build future ready civil service with right attitude, skills and knowledge. That is your ask. Okay, this keyword I want you to remember very well. Next, what is the role of capacity building commission in the context of Mission Karmayogi? To oversee the implementation of Mission Karmayogi, to provide training and capacity building programs for civil servants, to evaluate the performance of civil servants, to develop policies for civil services reforms. See, now with regard to this, to provide a training and capacity programs for your civil services is the right answer. What is the purpose of IGOT Karmayogi platform? This is your online training. Okay, when we say IGOT, this is an online training. The answer is to provide a comprehensive online training platform for civil servants, to facilitate collaboration and knowledge sharing among civil servants, to evaluate the performance of civil servants, to develop policies for civil services reform. The answer is it is for a collaboration and knowledge transfer of your civil servants. The next topic that we will be discussing is about your online misinformation. Okay. Now, when we say misinformation, we have also been speaking in your May month current affair compilation also, where the online misinformation is no longer subject to an issue of a particular country, but it affects group of countries and the nation at large, because this misinformation has the capacity to deteriorate the trust between your people and your government. One common example I'll tell you regarding your misinformation, because it hurts your public safety, public security, integrity of the nation, sovereignty of the nation, security of the nation. It even corrodes the morality of the people. Common examples, we would have seen during your pandemic time, huge amount of information is coming in the form of, if you take the vaccine, if you take COVID vaccine, it will lead to infertility, it will lead to heart attacks, it will lead to much more difficulties. So people were constantly afraid to take these things because of these kind of false informations. This false information is not only affect in this way, they go on to a larger extent of spreading very wild information, and especially if it reaches to the minds which are impressionable, that is even more difficult. And one more main thing about your misinformation is it targets people based on the information bubble. That is, let's say your algorithm picks up news based on how much the people are going through it. So you know how your all algorithm works. They will see how the sensationalism is developed over a topic, and based on that it spreads. And alongside that, if you have this concept where I will receive information based on my viewpoint only, making me go into that information bubble, which means my ideology is only correct. The concept of tolerism is taken away from me, which polarizes my view and which is very detrimental to the society at large. Understanding? So, what are the factors which are driving the spread of misinformation? They send it in the form of clear, simple messages. People tend to believe, yes, this is clear, this is apt, which is simple, then they believe it's correct. And when it comes from your trusted sources, then there's also issues with respect to their confirmation bias. My view system is this, and I am getting feed on, my feeds are filled with these information only. I tend to believe this is what is correct. Then there is emotional resonances, where people tend to attack people's emotion to portray the message that they want to. And another thing is information vacuum. That is, there is no one body to come out and clear out the air that no, this piece of information is wrong. So basically, a fact check unit is not there to identify and tell out that this message was wrong, this message was not correct. Okay, like we spoke about, information bubbles are created through this your misinformation. What are the initiatives taken to tackle online misinformation? Social media for peace. Yeah, I suggest you write these down because these were all in the news. Social media for peace is by UNESCO. Okay, this is to instill resilience in the societies. Another thing is, you will see as your information technology rules of 2021, which also tells that, okay, it prevents intermediaries from hosting stories or publishing any unlawful information prohibited under the law. IT Act of 2008 will be used to penalize anyone who spreads fake news through your electronic medium. Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita has provision for fake news, to deal with fake news in your electronic means, and fact check unit is now mandated to counter the misinformation for the government policies, initiatives, etc. Okay, one main issue about your misinformation is you cannot just find out the source. At the same point of time, you cannot find out the end, which is the difficulty in handling these informations. A World Summit on the Information Society was organized. This was the second of that forum. India also was a member country in this. It participated, wherein this forum is hosted by ITU, UNESCO, UNDP, and all of these countries, what is them and all of these organizations, yeah, what is one of the main objectives of doing this thing, so that the information sharing will be useful and peaceful. So some of the questions: which of the following is a key challenge to regulating online misinformation in India? Balancing freedom of speech with the need to curb misinformation, ensuring that online platforms are held accountable for the content they host, developing effective fact checking mechanisms, all of the above. This purposefully I gave it so that I can give the information like this. The answer is the all of the above. Under which section of the Information Technology Act 2000 can the government block online content that it is deemed to be misinformation? Section 69A, Section 79, Section 87, Section 91. Answer is Section 69A. Which country has enacted a law that requires online platforms to correct or remove fake news within a specified time frame? Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines. The answer is Singapore. Okay, because we are on the same topic, this is very important for you to understand. Which of the following is a consequence of online misinformation? Erosion of trust in the institutes, polarization of public opinion, incitement of violence, all of the above. Answer is all of the above. Okay, next we have got new criminal laws coming into effect. But Indian Penal Code of 1860 is now called as Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. Criminal Procedure Code is now replaced by a Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita. Is your Telecommunication Act of 2023, wherein it repeals Indian Telegraph Act of 1885 and it repeals Indian Wireless Telegraphy Act of 1933. Your colonial laws are repealed. And also with the Telecommunications Act, if you see, the salient features are it has started to define the terminology so as to that the user confidence will be boosted and also they can avail the services well without having to worry about the vague or arbitrary concepts. Now they know what each term means, now they know what they are entitled to and what they were entitled to. Understanding? They have also discussed the right of way framework which will be granted to your in a non-discriminatory and non-exclusive bias by your central government, and it also expands the scope of your universal service obligation, which is now called as your digital Bharat Nidhi. So it is more revamped in nature. The next last topic that we will be seeing is the Post Office Act of 2023, which comes into effect. Just because we are on the same topic, we will see what are the postal system during the British era. The East India Company first opened its post office in 1727. Lord Dalhousie recognized Indian post offices as a separate organization of your national importance. Understanding? Next, with regard to your Post Office Act of 2023, it repeals the Colonial Law of Indian Post Office Act of 1898 and it has put Director General of Postal Services as the head of Indian Post. And one main provision with regard to your new the Post Office Act was the government of India can intercept, that is, it can go through your postal articles when it affects the security of India, sovereignty of India, in public health, in case of public security. So on these conditions, it can intercept, that is, it can open and see what is there in this. One main thing is there is no penal provision that is prescribed in this particular act. One of the main things your Indian Postal Office, no, one of the main things your Indian Post Office Act tried to do was it wanted to bring the government services to the people in a manner to ensure last mile connectivity. Okay, this was one of the key features of this act. They also tried to inculcate your ease of doing business as well as ease of living. Okay, that's it. We've come to the end of the topic of this June 2024 Polity Current Affair compilation. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button and share it along with your friends. Thank you.